Hey guys, welcome back. I'm your girl Toya T, and this is my review and recap of season 4 of Being Mary Jane, episode 1, Being Nekkid, or Get Nekkid, or something like that. Alright, so this show opens up with Mary Jane doing some sexy walk. I don't know where she was going. Looks like she was in her hotel room making this sexy walk. It's in slow-mo. Looks like a music video or something. And I'm already looking at it like, what is going on? Are we in New York? What's going on here? And then it cuts 1 year later. We find out that Mary Jane is in New York City, and she's doing her little voiceover about love and things that she's expecting and stuff like that. And we find out that she's actually talking to a matchmaker in New York. And this conversation is absolutely hilarious because of the fact the matchmaker's like, you've only been here like less than a month. Why are you coming for my services here? Like, you should be trying to sell yourself. I mean, the girl is still living in a hotel, so I don't know how you trying to get a man before you get yourself property in New York, at least an apartment, because the housing crisis, the way the housing crisis works in New York City, you can have tons of money and still end up living in a box, a dirty box. And it's not like Atlanta where she had her mansion and all these things. So as someone who lived in New York for 8 years, had to go through finding an apartment. I had 2 different apartments and both of them were quite the experience to get, and they were nice but took all my money. I think that should have been her first priority, and I think that's what the matchmaker was thinking too. Like, girl, your priorities are kind of fucked up if you're looking for a man before you settle things with your new job, your new move to a new city, and your housing situation. But anyway, we'll get back to that matchmaker. So after that, after the matchmaker agrees to work with Mary Jane, because at first she was like, again, I told you she had her reservations about working with Mary Jane. We see her go to the club, a comedy club with Cara, her producer, and they're talking, and she's like, you know what, I really want to do something fun and you know, something crazy and wild, because this is my last night of being able to just be buck wild, because I just got this matchmaker. And she's looking at her like, girl, this is New York City. There's like 10,000 men here, which is absolutely true. You don't need a matchmaker. And she's like, well, this is a special matchmaker because she costs $20,000. And I love the line where Cara's like, did Barack leave Michelle? Because I don't see who else you paying $20,000 to meet. Now, if she can guarantee that I could meet like a sheik or a prince, oil prince or something like that, or get me a husband like Janet Jackson's husband, Wazam Alamana. If I can get me one of those, a billionaire, I would pay $20,000 too. I mean, shoot, I already have that in student loans. I'd take that out in a second to marry up. So anyway, she said, you know, there's kind of rules, and the matchmaker said that she has to be serious, she has to be focused, no fucking around, and that's really the word for it, no fucking around while you're trying to find a potential mate. And so she's eyeing some guys for her last romp, and she sees one guy and he's cute, but then he knows her name and she's like, I'm not trying to do names, I'm trying to do anonymous sex, one night stand, freaky deaky. So then all of a sudden she looks over and she sees this guy standing next to her, and before he even can say anything, she's like, shh, I don't need your name, I'm gonna call you London because you got a British accent, do you want to get freaky with me tonight? And he was like, yes, can I be your baby tonight? If you know the Real World, you should know that reference. Real World New Orleans, the first version with David. Let me stop. Anyway, so she gets back, she brings him back to her hotel room because that's where she's living. Again, she ain't got no real estate yet. And they are getting freaky. First, that's when we come back to her walking slowly and seductively to the bathroom. And then you see she closes the door, she's telling, I'll be right back. And she's freaking out. She finally realizes that what she's doing is absolutely freaking crazy for a grown-ass woman to be having a one-night stand with some man she met in a comedy club without no kind of references. You don't know his name, you don't know nothing. And so she's calling Cara. It's like, you know, if he kills me, I'll let you know that I walked him past the security desk, and I'm freaking out because she had to leave a message because Cara was busy herself. And so she gets back in the room, and then she goes into this like 9.5 weeks kind of freaky, like, you know, what's the name of that damn book? 50 Shades of Grey, kind of Zane Chronicles, freaky deaky shit. She put a rubber band on him, I thought, and she's like, you know, I'm gonna snap it when I want it harder, when I want you to go faster, and when I want you to do this. So he's like, oh, okay, let's go. And so they start getting to it, and then all of a sudden she falls out of the mood, and she's like, oh my gosh, something's wrong here. And he's looking at her like, what can I do to get this popping? And she said, tell me you love me. And that is when I turned off the TV and said, I will have to watch this in the morning, because I was not in the mood to be watching some Mary Jane nonsense about telling a strange ass man to tell her that he loves her so they can get it on. And of course he did it, because he's already inside her. He was like, okay, I love you, let's get it on. And so it happened, turns to black, and then that's the beginning credits. We get those show openers. So that was sign number one. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. This is why, it's so hard, because she's so freaking frustrating. And the fact that I know, like, as good as Gabrielle Union looks, every time I watch Being Mary Jane, I only think of Gabrielle Union. I only see her as Gabrielle Union. I know she's in her 40s. And I'm like, girl, this is just disgusting. Like, it's really disgusting. And I pray, I am working that at 33 that I don't end up at 45 doing that nonsense, because I'm looking for love in all the wrong places, in all the wrong ways. It's just crazy. But I don't know what age Mary Jane Paul is supposed to be on the show, but I just see 40-something-year-old Gabrielle Union, and it just makes me sick. So anyway, we see Mary Jane at her new job, and she tells Cara that she had the one-night stand and whatever, but she is now she's left her job in Atlanta, and she's now taken a kind of a demotion, and she's now a journalist, not an anchor. She's not an anchor. She's a host. She's a television host of a morning talk show, a network talk show, like something like Good Morning America or the Today Show, except she's not like Robin Roberts. She's like Al Roker outside with the crowd, like, hey, how's it going? Hey everyone, good morning. All that kind of nonsense. So that's where she's at right now. She's not behind the desk. She's telling Cara that she's kind of nervous because the last time that she didn't tell anybody that she actually didn't resign from her job in Atlanta, that they actually fired her, and we find out that she thinks it has to do with the incident that we saw at the end of season 3 where her niece was tasered by that police officer in front of her children when she was riding around in her new car that Uncle PJ bought her. I wish they had continued from that to see how we led up to her moving to New York. I wish there was that season that was Mary Jane dealing with that, and then she moves to New York. But Mara Kill Brock and her husband left the show, and they have new showrunners, so they just decided to cut ties and just start fresh with this New York, so whatever. So she told her that, you know, I felt like I was fed up. I was talking too much about police brutality, and I think that they really were fed up with me and didn't renew my contract, and allowed me to save face by acting like I resigned, but they really just didn't renew my contract. And Cara, being the ultimate professional and producer, said, you know what, that's that. Doesn't matter. I left before they could fire me. I knew where that sinking ship was going, and so we're here now. Let's work on this. This is our new opportunity. Let's go, girl. So she gets her to go outside and do the good morning. Hey, everybody. It's freezing cold, and at that time we see that her parents are watching her in Atlanta. So at least we know that we still have the Atlanta family, and we'll see what's going on with them. They didn't completely cut them out like they didn't exist. And mom and dad are so proud. They're asking Patrick to come, her brother Patrick, to come and watch Mary Jane on her new network job. And he's busy writing a press release for his daughter Niecy. And they're like, why are you writing this? And he's like, well, you know, Mary Jane used to write it for her, but then when she left, now I'm writing the press releases because Niecy cannot be bothered to write press releases about this whole ordeal. And then shortly after that, we see Niecy comes in with her kids, and her dad's trying to get her to read over what he wrote for her. And she's like, I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this right now. And so she leaves with her kids, and we see that she ends up going over to baby daddy number 2, Dante's house, which We didn't see nothing of him even when she was pregnant and had the baby. But of course, now that she's coming into some money, because we learned from Dante that of course they sued the city of Atlanta over this incident. And so she's coming into some money, so he's like every money grubber trying to latch on like, that's my baby mama, that's my baby, let me get some of this money. But not super concerned about the fact that her older son is still having nightmares about the situation, and that Niecy obviously seems to be dealing with some kind of depression or anxiety over this incident. And now, especially since the police officer that did this to her was suspended, is now coming back to work. So that's why her father was writing that press release. So that was, you know, really part of it. I'm going to do the family part all together because they don't have a large part. He says that he doesn't quite understand how to actually deal with this when it comes to his daughter and his grandson, and that he's hoping that, you know, even though he as a father has not been perfect, and when he had an incident like that, that the media and other people attacked him because he was a drug addict, because he was this, you know, tall, dark-skinned black man and all these other things. They became on trial, but he said for this we have to come together and support each other, and it was really beautiful. And the Niecy was happy about it, and so was his parents. And so that kind of sums up what's happening with the family in Atlanta. And now let's go back to what Mary Jane is doing and her work life. Okay, so we go back to Mary Jane at work, her first day back at work, her first day on the job, at her new job. And she's actually working at the same network of her media idol, the person that she pretty much emulated when she was in college, when she was going through journalism school or media communications, whatever she majored in. But she knew that she wanted to do this type of work, and this was the woman that she idoled herself after. She's kind of like a black kind of Katie Couric, actually more like a Diane Sawyer, black Diane Sawyer. Her name is Rhonda Seals, I think. And so she's the anchor of the show, and Mary Jane is like watching her in awe, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this. Like I even used some of her stuff to like get this interview here, and I'm just so excited to be around her. And we see Rhonda is in the middle of an interview with Senator Cory Booker, playing himself and actually talking about real world stuff that he actually does work on as a senator. And Mary Jane is with Cara, who's also producing for this anchor, and is telling her, like, you know, ask her to ask him about his expulsion act and all these other things. And so Rhonda does it. You know, Cory takes this, Senator Booker takes this, and goes, you know, completely flourishes and talks about the issues of there being a hyper-criminalization of black youth, especially for the fact that in schools, when you have white and black kids getting in trouble for the same acts, that the black kid tends to get the harsher punishment, so suspension or expulsion for something that a white child might get in, you know, in-house suspension or detention or something for. So he talks about that, and it's a good interview. And then Mary Jane gets to go meet her, and she's like super fangirling out, like, oh my gosh. And Kara lets her know, like, you know, Mary Jane is the one that suggested you ask about the Expulsion Act. And she's like, yeah, you know, I studied this stuff. It's like this is like the dream interview that I want to do, which is really funny because it's easy to contrast where Mary Jane is in her career now, because we see her now outside the Al Roker, you know, which is not bad. Al Roker got a job, but, you know, the one that has to go outside and talk to the people, who doesn't sit behind the desk and get to do the serious topics, but has to do the fluff pieces. And we find out that she actually has to also interview a rapper named David East, who I have no idea who he is. Like, I don't listen to the radio, and I'm guessing this is some like millennial rapper that I should know about, but I really don't, because I'm getting older, and so that's fine. But he's on there playing himself, and she has to go and interview him. But okay, so then now we meet Mary Jane's new executive producer. He's a young white guy that it seems like Rhonda doesn't like too much, because he's so young and seems to be trying to do this whole young spin of the news. But Mary Jane, you know, she meets up with him, and he's like, you know, I really love that you're here, and we should have lunch so we can discuss your future here at the show. And she's like super excited, so she agrees to go with lunch with him the next day. And during this time, she's told that she has to go back outside to go meet with the people. So she goes out and she meets with the people, and it turns out everyone has the same birthday. And she looks around the crowd, and they told her, you know, Carl's telling her ear that you have to go interview one particular person. The person turns out to be her one night stand London. aka Lee. She finds out his name because, you know, this is an actual on-air interview. And so he's flirting with her, and Kara's like, oh my gosh, that's cute. Go ahead, get it, girl. And he's, you know, really trying to kick game at her while she's at the job, and it just comes off super creepy and stalkerish. And so when they get off air, she's like, what are you doing here? This is not the rules. Like, this is supposed to be a one-night stand. You're not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to know your name. You're not supposed to talk to me after. Like, it was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Gone. But he didn't get the message. He's like, you know, something. It was like serendipity. Like, God told me to come here because, I mean, he didn't use those words. But he's like, you know, I usually don't wake up this early. But for some reason, I was up. And then I turned on the TV. But I usually don't watch this channel. And I saw it. I saw you. So I had to come down here and talk to you because I felt like this was a sign that we needed to reconnect. And so she's like, whatever, pays him dust and goes back inside, tells Kara, like, that's the dude that I told you about that I had that stuff with. And she's like, okay, girl, whatever, like, you getting it, like, he's cute, you should, you know, you should hook up with that. But, you know, Mary Jane is very much concentrating on her matchmaker. She's like, nah, I don't have to do that because I'm paying $20,000 to this matchmaker to get me a man, so I gotta stick to the rules. And so that happens. She ends up going out. She ends up going she ends up continuing her day, and Lee actually sends her a message through one of the field producers and sends her a ticket to his show and tells her to come. Turns out he's a comic at the same comedy club that she met him at. And so she's like, whatever, but she keeps it. And then she goes out later with one of her coworkers and finds out about the white producer. I don't know his name. I'm just going to call him white producer. I think his name is Garrett. And so she's telling her, like, you know, Garrett gets real friendly and that she's slept with him and, you know, trying to, as my friends, this is a joke we have, you know, her new coworker was telling her what that white dick do. Saying that, you know, a little in-office romance is not that bad. So I think that there might be something that happens between Mary Jane and this producer later because of this setup. But either way, she's in an Uber with her or Lyft or whatever, and she gets a phone call from her matchmaker, and the matchmaker dumps her. She actually calls her to tell her, like, girl, you are fucked up in life. Like, you are real fucked up in life. There was too many red flags in the survey that I gave you, that I give all my clients, that I know that you are not ready for this. Again, anybody that is immediately looking for a man before she has real estate, a house of her own in New York City, and you haven't even started your job yet. Like, this was her first day at the job and she hadn't even done any of that stuff yet, and she was looking for a man and willing to pay $20,000 to get matched up. You knew she was going to mess that up, just like how she messed it up with Gary Dourdan and how she messed it up with David. She is not ready. She is so not ready. She thinks she's ready, but she's not ready. Her mind is, I don't know where her mind is. So the matchmaker was like, you know what? You were so much of a mess that I'm going to give you a full refund. That's how you know she's fucked up, because who wants to give $20,000 back? I don't. If I got her paid for a job, I would try to find her whatever and be like, well, you just didn't work out. But she said, you look so bad on my record. You fuck up my shit so badly that I have to get you off away from me. Your karma, you got to go work on yourself, girl. She said, just go work on yourself. Get your juju away from me because, you know, you're going to ruin my business vibe. So Mary Jane takes that in, and of course she, you know, goes crazy with it. Decides to go to homeboy Lee, aka London's comedy show, and she's watching him. He's actually funny, you know, he's doing his little thing, and they talk, and she's like, well, you know, I'm sorry about how things we started off, and, you know, let's start over and let's get to know each other or whatever, but not in a serious way, just you know, I'm here, I came, trying to just see where things go. So they end up walking out the club and going into what seemed like a nice, like, village club. I don't know, it looks like it was in the village somewhere in downtown Manhattan. They end up going to, like, this EDM reggae kind of pop Rihanna-esque work, but without just the heavy reggae with the in it. So, like, EDM reggae. I just said it, EDM reggae. And so they end up, you know, dancing and doing all this, loving in the club, and then it turns into actual loving and fucking. Like, not loving, because there's no love. Some fucking. Back at her hotel room, and you end up seeing her with her Post-its, and she's making notes to herself like she does in her regular house, and puts a note on his head saying like, you know, you can get comfy, but don't get too comfy. You can't stay too long. So don't think this is going to be permanent. And on top of that, so we go back to her job the next day. She goes to lunch with the producer. It seems like, let me backtrack. So before that, Cara finds out through Rhonda's stylist that Rhonda didn't get the 5-year, you know, Katie Couric contract, that she multi-million-dollar contract to keep her at the network, and it seems like she's fielding offers at different networks to leave. And so she takes this as a chance to make sure that Mary Jane gets that job, and that, you know, they're going to be in the top spot, in the anchor spot soon. And during that same day, Mary Jane went to go have lunch with the producer, and she's like, you know, where's my future with this? And Carr already told her the news about Rhonda possibly leaving. So she's really, you know, like, you know, I would be really good at the anchor job. And he's like, yeah, I can see your future. You know, you're young, you're fresh, you're bringing all this good energy in. And so she's feeling real good. She goes back and tells Cara, and they're like high-fiving and like, yeah, we're going to have the anchor job in 6 months, and getting happy and stuff. And so after that, of course, Rhonda knew where they went and all the details. And she was like, girlfriend, let me tell you something. I'm not leaving. This is my home. I plan to stay here. He was playing you. They're only doing, and Mary Jane's like, why? He's like, it's for ratings. She said, this is this is just like reality TV. Like, it's all about ratings. So Mary Jane feels awful. She goes and talks to Cara about it, and Cara's like, girl, please, that was all game. Don't you worry about it. We're going to be in the anchor spot. And it turns out that the Rhonda, her idol, is not such a nice lady. It seems like she's more like, you know, the older woman that is like, you know, just holding on to that last bit of that spot that she has, because she can see that younger person coming for her spot. So she's trying to kick Mary Jane down and not actually lift her up like she's supposed to. But I get it. When money's involved, people can get real nasty, especially when you've been someplace for a long time. So that is Beer and Mary Jane. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I had to watch it in the morning. I don't think I can watch that thing at night, especially when the school year starts and I'm working. There's no way I can watch this. It just causes too much tension for me and stress, because I just want to punch Mary Jane in the face sometimes, because I think she's so stupid. And so okay guys, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys later. I had to wear my Mary Angelou sweatshirt for this review because I felt like I needed the spirit of Maya to get me through this. Like, Mary Jane shows me who she is all the time, and I know in real life, like, we couldn't be friends. And so I love talking about this show, but it is definitely not, well, you get it. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye.